All right, let's get right into it. Sometimes the biggest cracks in a system are blown wide open by the smallest of events. Today, we're talking about how a single resignation letter, posted on an internal forum, managed to expose a massive crisis inside a city's government, right in the middle of a natural disaster.
And this right here, this is the line that just stops you in your tracks. Sweat and effort, only reprimands. It's the emotional core of this whole story. This isn't just someone saying, "I quit." No, this is a cry of frustration from a public official on the front lines, and it tells you that a system is at its breaking point.
So you have to ask yourself, right? Why would a public servant, someone whose job is to help people, just walk away when their community needs them the most? Well, the answer peels back the layers on something much bigger than just one person's burnout. It points to a deep, systemic failure. So first, to really get what's happening, you have to understand the sheer chaos this was all born from. We're talking about late July 2025. The entire city of Pocheon was just reeling, trying to pick up the pieces after some truly record-breaking floods. The scale of the destruction was just mind-boggling. Let's talk numbers. Property damage alone hit 36.6 billion won. For a city the size of Pocheon, that is an absolutely crippling, devastating blow. And we're not just talking about money here. The physical destruction was everywhere. 637 public and private facilities were damaged or totally destroyed. Just try to picture that for a second. Hundreds of homes, local shops, and crucial infrastructure gone.
And guess who was on the receiving end of all that pain and frustration? The frontline public officials. They were buried under more than 600 citizen complaints from desperate people who had lost everything. I mean, can you even imagine that kind of pressure cooker environment?
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter. A culture of blame, not support. In the middle of this citywide crisis, the letter alleges that instead of getting a lifeline, the very people giving their all were just getting punished for it.
And this is where it gets really stark. You've got this contrast. On one side, there's the reality for the folks on the ground, juggling hundreds of complaints, working in dangerous recovery zones. And then, on the other side, the alleged response from their superiors, a lax attitude toward the danger, ducking responsibility, and just handing out reprimands instead of a helping hand.
Wow. I mean, this line from the letter, it's just gut-wrenching, isn't it? It paints a picture of a complete breakdown. This feeling that all your hard work is just invisible to leadership. And worse, that you're being forced to give these hollow, robotic, parrot-like answers to citizens you desperately want to help. It's a profound feeling of being completely devalued.
But hold on, because the letter didn't just stop at a toxic work environment. It went somewhere much, much darker, dropping a bombshell allegation that points to a serious breach of public duty. Yeah, this is the moment the whole story pivots. This wasn't just an employee venting about a bad boss. No, the letter laid out a really serious, really specific claim of misconduct, one with actual legal teeth. And here it is, the bombshell. The allegation that a superior was improperly involved in development permits. This changes the entire narrative. Suddenly, we're not just talking about bad management during a crisis. We're talking about the potential for corruption, for an abuse of power, right at the city's very core.
So, why is that one allegation such a big deal? Well, it all comes down to this core idea: public service integrity. It's basically the promise that official decisions are made based on the law and what's fair for everyone, not for personal gain or because of outside pressure. Any hint that this promise has been broken, that's a direct hit on public trust.
And what this whole situation also exposed was this giant disconnect. And not just inside the Pocheon city office, but between the national government and the reality on the ground. It seems a clear directive from the very top just vanished into thin air before it reached the front line. I mean, this timeline just lays the disconnect bare. On July 22nd, you have the president himself demanding strict public service discipline. And then, just 6 days later, the Pocheon official resigns, describing the total opposite, a complete breakdown of that very discipline. That 6-day gap says it all, doesn't it? So you might be thinking, okay, it's one letter from one official in one city. Why should we all care? Because it's a symptom of a much larger illness, a crisis of public trust. It shows us what's truly at stake when the system that's supposed to protect people fails them. And the real costs here, they're huge, and they create this terrible domino effect. It starts with employee morale just plummeting. That leads to a decline in the quality of public services. Then, people lose trust in their government, which ultimately cripples the entire disaster response. In the end, it's the public that pays the highest price. Every time.
And that's exactly why this isn't being treated as just some internal workplace issue. It's being called a last warning for the entire public administration system. A clear signal that you can't just sweep these foundational problems under the rug anymore.
Okay, so where do they go from here? The path forward seems pretty clear, even if it's tough. First, you need a completely transparent, thorough investigation into all of it. Second, a fundamental top-to-bottom reform of that toxic workplace culture. And third, a complete reevaluation of the disaster response system to make sure it actually supports its frontline workers instead of punishing them.
And this really brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful point of all. The floods caused 36.6 billion won in property damage, a massive number. But the true cost of this failure isn't measured in money. It's measured in trust. Because you can rebuild a bridge, but rebuilding people's faith in the very institutions designed to protect them, well, that is a far greater challenge.